Hi everybody, it's Claire back with another art journal video, and in this one I am creating a journal page in the small craft journal, and oh boy did this one fight. I don't know whether this happens to you guys, but sometimes when I'm creating it flows and sometimes it doesn't. And this was one of those pages that really caused me some struggle. So I've started off with my sort of trademark swipe of rainbow colours across my page, then going in with a bit of collage tissue paper, sticking that down with some matte medium. So as you know, sometimes I start with collage paper and sometimes I don't. This is one of those occasions where I've swiped my paint on and then decided to pop some collage paper over the top. Hilariously, when you see what comes next, you'll realise that half of this actually disappears. But as I say, that is one of the things about mixed media art, creating those layers, and sometimes you don't even see some of them. And sometimes you do, and that's okay. And you can go back in and add more over the top, which is what I do. So just adding some areas of collage tissue paper on, starting to build those layers of interest on my page. Now, here I go. I don't know why I did this now. When I'm looking, I kind of think, okay, this was an interesting choice. I obviously had something in mind that I was going to do, and I think kind of this was where it started to go a bit pear-shaped. So this is Night from Dina Wakley Media, and it's a beautiful dark blue with really lots of purple in it. It's such a lovely colour, and for some reason unknown to anyone else but only me, and I don't know why, this time I'm putting this at the bottom of my page. You can see that collage paper's vanished, and then I'm going in with some white using the same blending tool. So I'm just bringing the same colour but just a bit lighter over the top. So my intention was at the very beginning of this page to use the profile stamps on this page, and I think probably what I was thinking was I'm going to create an area where I can pop those faces. That's the Tornado stencil from Dina Wakley. It's an older one. This is the Mantra stencil, which is now, I notice, out of stock on Ranger, and this is one of my favourite stencils. I love it. So yeah, I'm just adding a little bit of stenciling on as well. So starting to build up those layers of stenciling on my page too, just to work with what I've got. And then I'm going back in with a bit more collage tissue paper over the top, because I must have suddenly thought, I've managed to disappear it all. Then I'm using my Shoot for the Stars stamp, adding some stamping onto the page too. And this is, I can never remember what this stencil is called, but it is a Dina Wakley one. It's something dots, can't remember. Anyway, adding some dots on there as well. So quite a lot of layers of stenciling going on there now. And then I decided I would use the profile stencil first. And I am going to start adding in some profiles onto my page. So looks like I've got blackberry, I think, mixed with a bit of white there, and I'm just deciding where I want those faces to go, and then going in with the first colour. I think it's also important to remember that sometimes just the process of moving your hands and being creative is what it's about, and it doesn't necessarily matter that when you've finished you love what you've created. This was definitely one of those times where I finished and I was just like, oh right, okay, that really didn't go how I thought it would, but actually it didn't matter, because even when pages are a struggle like this one, you still learn valuable lessons from it. And I think just not to get too hung up on the end product and whether it's perfect and it's exactly how you wanted it to be, and just accepting that sometimes the process of going through what you've done is as valuable as ending up with a journal page that you are in love with at the end of the time you've been creating. So here I'm just going in and adding some slightly darker areas to those profile faces that I've added onto my page. And then I decided I would stamp one onto some white card, so that one would be more like the focal point. So I've used Night and Blackberry on there, obviously giving that a really good wipe because I don't want that paint to dry on my stamp. And then I am going to cut that out, and that's then going to be popped onto my page, but as you can see it's disappearing into the background because it's too dark, it's too similar. So I've added a bit of white onto the stamped image, and also just creating a quieter area on the page for it to go as well. So you can kind of see that I just clearly did not have my brain switched on this day. I don't know, maybe I was a bit distracted, I'm not sure. Some days it just goes like this, and that is okay. And you can see I'm kind of working through the problems that I'm coming up against as I'm going along. So I'm kind of hoping that for you guys to watch this process happening and watch me going, oh, okay, that's not worked. Kind of helps you see that there are lots of ways that you can fix mistakes. Maybe let's not call them mistakes, things that happen that are not quite what you intended. There are ways that you can sort it. So I'm still not really in love with this page. I'm adding some white circles. I mean, you can kind of see by all the things that I'm doing that I'm like, nah, I'm not happy. I'm not feeling the love. So, you know, kind of using all those little tips and tricks to try and bring the page together. So stamping some circles, adding some white splatters. Yeah, trying it all, and then going in and adding a bit of a shadow around that face in the centre, just to try and make that more of a focal point. But then the problem is then that makes that too much of a focal point, so I end up blotting the edge of that with a piece of tissue just to lift some of that pigment off because it has gone a bit dark. That's a bit better. Yeah, it's I think you just have to go with it, don't you, when pages do this to you. So, or maybe I've done this to the page, I don't know. So then I grabbed a piece of card that I'd got on my desk where I'd cut some little hearts out and decided I would use the outlines of the hearts rather than cutting hearts out like I normally do. Pop some of those onto some of the figures. So this page was inspired by the fact that for a while I'd not been feeling quite myself. Just, I don't know, there's been a lot of change that's happened in our family recently, and I've done something about it, and I started to feel like myself again. So the thing of the figures in the background, that was like how I was feeling, and slightly jaded, and I don't know, just like, yeah, anyway. And so the one in the foreground, that's, yes, feeling like myself again. And that's kind of where this page came from. So I kind of knew what I wanted to say, but yeah, it's I think the process of doing this, it was fine, and although it was a struggle and didn't quite go how I wanted it to, it still had the same end result, which was I'd journaled out what was in my head. So that was what really mattered. So then I'm just outlining those letters because I didn't like how bold they were against the rest of the page, because it's got quite although there are a lot of bright colours on there and dark colours, it started to feel like that was too harsh. The lettering was too harsh against everything else that was going on. So I outlined it just to push it away. Okay, so then I came back to this page the next day and I looked at it again and I was like, yeah, still not liking this. So I decided I would stamp out another profile face onto some white card, just in black. And then I am cutting that out and leaving a little white border around the edge. So sometimes it's useful just to put the page to one side and come back to it another day or a few hours later, if you're able to, and just kind of see if you can look at it afresh and, you know, try something else. So popping another figure on there. Again, this one is even more in the foreground. This is even bolder. So kind of works with what the page was about. And I kind of felt immediately that was a little bit better. It kind of worked a bit more, and then, you know, that whole let's faff a bit more, adding some circle stamps on as well in black. Oh dear, really throwing everything at this. So I think this didn't quite go how I wanted it to, but actually the process of creating this page, learning through those things that happened, all the different things that I tried, it all worked in the end and had the right outcome. So thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed watching this naughty journal page that just wouldn't behave and how I worked through it. And I hope to see you again soon.